Welcome to episode 7 of these NoiseMap tutorials. This time we're going to do some acoustic design with NoiseMap, and this is one of its real strengths. So we're going to open the model that we've worked on previously. File, Open Database File, and that's the model that we've worked on before. So we've opened that, and now we need to select the preview to get the right scenario, and we're going to work on the scenario of estate road and receiver. So we'll load that, and this is probably familiar to you. We have already done a noise contour of this area, so let's load the noise contour. And we go to Load Database Contours, and we want the contour for all roads. It's done calculation of road traffic noise, and in fact we're going to be looking at the L1080 now. You'll see that the display has gone to green. That means the calculated contour is valid for this scenario, and we'll load it. And because we were previously using the blue, green, red colour scale, that's still being used, and the results are automatically displayed in 2.5 decibel bands. Now let's suppose that we've been told that the new estate road here mustn't expose anyone in this block of flats to a noise level of 60 decibels LAQ, 18 hour. That's the value shown here. So that's what we're displaying, and if I look at that, that's in the yellow zone, and that is at least in part between 60 and 62.5 decibels, so at least parts of that facade are exposed to too high a noise level. And in fact, if you look down here, you will see that depending on where the cursor is pointing, we can get an actual readout of the noise level at that position. So let's look at the front of this block, and if I look there, we're over 60. We're assuming that we need to meet a level of 60. We're 61 there, and remember that the contour is a free field. We're going to design to the free field level for simplicity today. So if the client has told us we must not exceed 60 decibels on this facade, the most obvious thing to do, if we can't alter the road itself, is to put a noise barrier in between the road and the row of housing, and the best place for that would be alongside the road. So let's add a noise barrier. Go to Add and Barriers, and we're going to put them in at ground level. I'll explain why later. We say OK, and now we've gone to the Add mode, and we're going to put it, let's put it fairly close to the road, and I'll put it parallel to the road. OK, and the object properties open, and we can see that we're going to be entering the properties for all 4 of these noise barrier segments. You may note that NoiseMap split this barrier on the tile boundary. You can't do anything about that. The barrier was entered at ground level, so it won't have any screening. Obviously that's not going to be much good, but we're going to play about with the barrier heights, and to do that we're going to enable height adjustment, and I'm going to use 3 height adjustments, levels 1, 2 and 3. The value in brackets is the height adjustment, but you can see at the moment it's 0. So I'll apply that to all those 4 barrier segments. I better put in a name. We'll call it barrier outside building 4. Oh, let's capitalize that correctly. Okay, and we need to apply that. This is building 4, by the way. If you're not sure, let's come out of add mode. If I select that, then its property opens and we can see it. It is building 4 and it is 8 meters high. Now the contour is 4 meters high and that represents first floor level. If we want to make sure that nowhere on that building is exposed to more than 60 free field, we're going to have to increase the height of one or more of these barrier segments. So let's go to parameters and edit barrier adjustments. You will remember that for these barriers we said that they could be adjusted by level 1, level 2 and level 3. Let's give these some value. So 2 meters for level 1, 1 meter for level 2 and half a meter for level 3. And I'll then highlight those and you'll see that they've gone dotted. So those height adjustments are applied to each of those barrier segments, and I can, if I click on here, I will get the properties for these barriers coming up. Before I can do anything, I need to save the changes to the database. So I will commit changes to a new child. And we'll call it barrier at building 4. Okay. And once I've done that, then I can get the properties of these 4 barriers, and you can see now this barrier is adjusted by level 1, which is 2 meters, by level 2, which is 1 meter, and by level 3, which is half a meter. So we're adding 3.5 meters to all 4 of those barrier segments. Let's do a barrier calculation now and see what sort of difference a 3.5 meter barrier has made for a contour which is 4 meters above the ground. So I go to calculate database contours, and I don't need to calculate for all these tiles because this building is just in this tile, so I'll select that tile. That's where I'm going to do the calculation. Okay, and we're going to use 10 meter spacing, 4 meters above local ground, and we'll add 2 tiles, load 2 tiles. So although we're only calculating for this tile, we're taking into account any noise that comes from this tile and this tile. So we're not leaving out any local roads. And we'll perform the calculation on this computer. By the way, if you're wondering where these came from, they've come from the fact that those were the parameters chosen for a previous calculation. So let's perform it on this computer. It's done the calculation and we'll load it. Now we're going to load the noise from all roads because that'll be the total noise. You'll see that this tile has gone green, which means that that result there that I've highlighted is valid. So I'll load it. There we are. Now we can see what the noise levels are, and if I move this slightly out of the way, the yellow colours in front of this building are 52 to 55 and the orange colour is 55 to 57. So in fact we've met the 60 criterion, and as I move along the front here, if you look at the noise levels in this bar, you will see that they're changing from 53 there, 52 there, which is quite some distance from the road, and increasing slightly to 55 there. So, well, we don't need quite so much barrier, do we? That barrier is higher than we need. If I select one of the barriers, press Ctrl R, then the whole of that chain is selected, but this end one needs to be selected because the chain breaks at the tile boundary. So I press the Shift key and click on it. Now all 4 barriers are selected. So what should we do? Take ½ meter off the barrier perhaps. Okay, so I've unticked that and apply that to all the barriers. So they're now only 3 meters high. If I try to do the calculation, I can't do it because I didn't commit that change to the database. So I need to do that. I won't commit it this time to a new scenario. I'll just commit it to the present scenario. And now I should be able to do the calculation. It says I've already got contours. You want to close these and continue. There is a facility for checking edge difference. I will explain that in another tutorial, but we don't need it for this. So we are sure, yes. And we only want to calculate for this tile. We could calculate for the others, but there's no point. Click OK. Yes, we want to keep the same parameters. And I do want to load those results for all roads. What difference has that made? Well, you can see the noise levels have actually gone up a bit, which is exactly what we would have thought. So that now the orange levels are touching the buildings here and here. That's 55 to 57.5. And well, we're moving up, aren't we? But we're still only 57.5-ish there. And in fact, well, we don't need such high barriers. Well, I think that's enough for now, but in the next episode we'll look at how we can make some further refinement to the barrier heights to get even closer to the design target. I hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching, and see you again soon. Goodbye.